Hello friends, today we will do chapter number 8 of our novel David Copperfield, written by Charles Dickens. An Unsettling Time. One day I came home to find Mr. Peggotty sitting in my parlour with his hands in his hands. He looked so sad that I expected the worst. At first I didn't understand what was wrong. I will look over all the world until I find my Emily. I have raised her since she was a little girl. She is a good girl. She may have made mistakes, but I will always forgive her and I will always be here to help her and protect her. After listening to him for some time, I discovered that Emily and Steerforth had run away together. How could Steerforth have done something like that to the Peggottys? And what about Ham, who was so in love with Emily? He would have done anything for her. But Emily always wanted to be a lady, and she probably thought that Steerforth would make her one. Poor Mr. Peggotty, poor Ham, poor Emily. I decided to see Ham in Yarmouth and was about to leave when a letter arrived. It was from Agnes. She was in London and wanted to see me urgently. She said it was very important. I rushed to see her and realized that she was very upset. "Oh, David, you must help us. My father and Uriah Heep are going to become business partners. Uriah Heep is still encouraging my father to drink too much. I think he is tricking father by pretending to be a good and honest man, but I believe he is stealing money from the business." I held Agnes' hands in mine. "Don't worry, Agnes. I will do everything I can to help you and your father." I went to see Heep at once at Mr. Wickfield's house, and I was shocked to find Mr. Micawber working at Heep's desk. "Mr. Micawber, how can you work for a man like Heep?" "Mr. Heep is my employer now, and I must respect the man who helps me pay my debts, David. Work is work." I found Mr. Micawber's behavior to be rather peculiar. He had always said that he would only work for honest people, and somehow Micawber seemed afraid of Uriah Heep. I was angry and turned to Heep, who had just walked into the room. "What are you up to, Heep? I always thought you were a snake, and now see that I was right. You are taking advantage of a good man like Mr. Wickfield." "Does a good man drink and not take care of his business records? If I wasn't here, this good man you speak of would be out in the streets." "Oh, and I suppose you saved him, did you?" "Yes, and I am going to save Miss Agnes too. I am going to marry her." The blood pounded in my head, and for some reason I was unable to speak. I wanted to kill Uriah Heep in that instant, and I decided to do all that I could to prevent this marriage. In the meantime, there were other problems to deal with. Aunt Betsy had lost most of her money through Mr. Wickfield's bad business decisions. I was sure that this had something to do with Uriah Heep. My aunt and Mr. Dick came to live with me in London, and I helped them as much I could. I was also very worried about my wife. Dora was very ill. My aunt looked after her in the day while I was at work. In the evenings I would rush to her bedside and gently stroke her soft hair, and whisper to her that I loved her. On one dark stormy evening, not long after her illness began, she asked to see Agnes alone. While they talked, I sat downstairs by fire and thought about all the happy moments my dear Dora and I had shared and how it hurt me to see her so ill and unable to move. When Agnes came back downstairs, I realized from the look in her eyes that my darling wife Dora had passed away. Thank you, friends.